That was a clip from a kung fu movie, directed by Liu Qiaoliang, one of the masters of the genre. It was made around 10 years ago, here, in Shaw Brothers Movie Town. Opened in 1961 as the largest studio in Southeast Asia. Liu still makes kung fu films for Shaw Brothers, and he's become one of Hong Kong's most interesting directors, but the fashion for kung fu has passed. Liu seems as much an anachronism in contemporary Hong Kong cinema as John Ford would seem in present-day Hollywood. And Shaw Brothers, once clear market leaders, have failed to keep pace with changing styles and tastes. They now come in a poor third to their main rivals. Thanks to the birth boom of the 50s, over half the population of Hong Kong is now under 25. It's one of the youngest cities in the world. And kids here, like everywhere else, go to the movies more often than their parents. Typically, it was not the major production companies, but the small independents that first began to tap this new, young audience. And it's the independent companies who now lead the field. We shot this film during the Chinese New Year, when the major Golden Harvest opened a big-budget sword and sorcery spectacular called Zoo. But the box office champion for the holiday was an independent production, a car crash comedy called Aces Go Places that was playing all over town. In fact, almost all the big hits recently have been comedies. And Hong Kong's most successful comedian is Michael Hui, who has directed, produced, written, and starred in 5 record-breaking comedies in the last 9 years. His last film, Security Unlimited, grossed the equivalent of £2 million in Hong Kong alone. He is quite clear why Hong Kong is a city of filmgoers.
Very simple. We have a small island here, Germany with 6 million people, and in the Chinese, in the holidays season like this one, for example, you have 10 days or what, 15 days of practically doing nothing, and it was raining outside. What do you do other than see movies? And besides, we only have 2 children, you know. So there's not much other actions anyway.
今日教防守大廈，呢一張咧就電子地氈，後邊啊充滿感應器。我哋將佢擺咗喺寫字樓嘅門口。第一件事咧，我哋就將個電掣插咗入去先，然後就將條電線啊慢慢咁樣拖落去嗰個電鐘嘅後邊，將佢黐咗喺2個極嗰度，一邊係正極，一邊係負極。然後啊，如果冇人踩上啲地氈就由自可。 但係如果你話有人偷偷咁踏上啲地氈嘅話呢？睇咗地氈踩落去，我唔踩地氈，踩喺邊度啊？Sit down。
Hui's comedies are first and foremost vehicles for himself and his brothers Ricky and Sam, but their slapstick is anchored in realities of Hong Kong life.
I've been often wondering why I choose a topic like Security Unlimited, talking about security guards, for example. And I came up with the answer that, you know, it's relatively new in the colony. Wherever you go, you see a lot of security guards around. I mean, it's crazy. To me, it's new, very new and crazy. For example, my house, for example, downstairs, at least you must have passed by 5 or 6 guys before you come up to this building. Department stores, anything.
繼續講防火，火燭嘅時候最致命嘅就唔係火，係煙。所以第一件事咧要帶防火衣啦嚇，防火罩、斧頭啊、繩啊，冚唪唥都要帶晒佢嘅。逃命嘅時候啊，如果落得地下就梗係落地下啦嚇。 如果落唔到地下咧，就即刻上晒天棚，因為嗰度大把新鮮空氣嘅。上天棚點走啊？用降落傘。喺1783年，第一個法國物理學家成功喺塔頂用降落傘跳落地下。200年之後。 第一個運用降落傘喺防火理論之上嘅係一個中國人，佢曾經喺石崗度做傘兵，佢名叫周世昌，就係你阿常我啦。你阿常好陰公㗎，唉，因為佢天分高啊嘛。咁天分高嘅人呢，時時講啲嘢， 令到天分低嘅人啊，笑到碌地㗎。
From a Western point of view, the most striking thing about the Hong Kong film industry is not the fact that it hasn't visibly succumbed to any recession, but that it's been taken over by young directors. Thanks to the initiatives of the independent companies, it's easier for new directors to break into the industry here than anywhere else in the world. Around 40 young people have begun directing in the last 4 years. Many of them were trained in European or American film schools. However, it's by no means clear that these young directors constitute a new wave in Hong Kong cinema. A lot of the time, they seem to be merely giving a new shine to the old formulas.
After the rise of the martial art films, the Hong Kong film industry as a whole has become mainly escapist cinema. Even today, the young generation of filmmakers are mostly still making escapist cinema, no longer facing any social problems or human problems.
I think the younger directors are still searching for something. They don't know what. But one major change is when you talk about younger directors, you always thought them to be artistic, not thinking about box office and things like that. The younger director in Hong Kong is very commercial minded. The first thing they will think of is, I will make this picture that is so successful, I can make something else. But it turns out, if the first picture is successful, it turns out the next picture they will want to be more successful.
Box office takings are a matter of general interest in Hong Kong. Grosses are published not only in film magazines, but also in daily newspapers. The public likes to know how it's spending its money, and it spends most of it on the 100-odd films made in Hong Kong every year. The Midnight Show is one of the institutions of Hong Kong cinema. New Hong Kong movies are premiered at weekend midnight shows around 2 weeks before they open for their regular runs. The screenings are almost always packed. The audiences at midnight shows are the toughest to please in Hong Kong. Directors sometimes recut their films in the light of reactions at the midnight show.
I think a lot of the young filmmakers and new directors, they do want to make more serious films. But it seems, well, either I guess we are afraid to risk or to lose the chance of making a second movie. Okay, more serious film, and He make the both people is quite in a serious tone. It's still commercially successful. Adam Fong making Father and Son was well received. But these are exceptions.
Money making is most important. Basically, you will not change. You have to have money to survive.
As far as I'm concerned now, I think the next trend will be action together with emotions. Something that is visual, basic, you don't demand a lot of brain work, but yet is so warm and emotional. E.T. would be perfect, for example.
E.T. is a hit in Hong Kong, like everywhere else, but it won't gross anything like as much here as Aces Go Places will. Most visitors take it for granted that Hong Kong is a highly westernized city. The truth is that it remains in all important respects deeply Chinese. And when young, Western-educated directors make escapist films here, they follow Chinese rules, not Western ones. Chiu Gang-chen studied literature and drama in the States and went on to become one of the foremost scriptwriters in the Hong Kong and Taiwan film industries.
我想，是不是因为香港是英国的一个殖民地，那么英国的带来的虽然是很有限度的民主跟自由，可是对中国人来讲就是一个很大的一个享受。这个享受可以让 大家可以自由的发挥他意见，自由的创作。所以这也是有点讽刺的，因为实际上香港是一个殖民地。最近10年来从事电影工作的年轻人，大部分都受过比较好的教育。这个教育包括他们有正规的大学教育，或者是留学国外练电影回来的。以前的电影工作人员大部分都是学徒制度出来的。那么10年以前，差不多如果拿邵氏做例子的话，几乎拍的电影都是功夫电影跟武侠电影。那么现在这些新的电影导演、新的电影工作人员，他们选择拍电影的题材非常自由。他们有时候想拍点写实的电影，拍点文艺的电影，或者关于人的电影。
One of the few genuinely innovative films in the last few years was Sealed with a Kiss, a first feature by the critic and scriptwriter Xu Ke.
I wrote and acted as assistant director for a film called The Happenings, which was a very violent film about some juvenile delinquents. And after that, I think I always wanted to be a director myself. And after that came the opportunity that I can direct a film on my own. And I think I was much dictated by the mood at that time because I just wanted to do something entirely different from The Happenings. So I think the best thing to do is to do a love story. And I don't want to do just a simple love story, but at least a love story with something different. So I came up with the idea of having a young couple which were slightly mentally retarded.
你今日做謝生啊？都走晒啦，佢哋啲阿嬸就鎖門噶啦。
我等我哥哥啊！
我同你拆啦。 會唔會西雲苑都唔記得嚟㗎？
咁點啊？
你唔記得翻屋企咩？
黑啊嘛！
我知道你哋啲女人怕黑，不過我哋啲馬佬冇有怕㗎。
Commercially, it was a flop, and that was actually more or less the way I expected it to be, because I never thought that it's going to be a commercial success.
Xu Ke has not yet had an offer to direct another feature. We went on to talk with 4 other directors of his generation. All 4 of them went to film schools in the West and served stints in the television stations when they got back to Hong Kong. They've all begun directing features since 1979, and they've all had commercial success at one level or another. Each of them now faces a choice between following the demands of the Hong Kong market and striking out in some new direction, although they wouldn't necessarily see the choice in those terms themselves. Alan Fong is the least commercially oriented director in Hong Kong, and the only one of the younger directors committed to the tradition of Cantonese realism. His first feature, Father and Son, was the most unexpected success of 1981. It's a vivid account of the gap between a traditional-minded father and his misfit son, who's forever getting expelled from schools, set against a backdrop of the social changes of the 60s. Many took it to be autobiographical. Fong studied film in California. On his return to Hong Kong, he made a dozen films for TV, then became the first of the younger directors to join one of Hong Kong's so-called left-wing film companies, meaning a company with strong China connections.
我喺電視做咗4年啦，就鳳凰係第一間公司咧揾我拍戲嘅，而佢哋應承我啦，我咧可以即係繼續咧拍翻好似我以前喺電視拍嗰啲戲咁樣嘅。我拍電視片嘅時候又係即係呢啲環境啦，父子情咧亦都係講香港一啲好實在嘅問題嘅片。如果從嗰個角度嚟睇咧，係冇分別。
快啲攞個過嚟啊！哦。 下先。你知唔知呢個邊個啊？唔知啊。爸爸啦嘛，咁都唔認得？你睇佢幾惡。唔似得我嚟話。你話得爸爸咁衰啊？嗱，呢個就差唔多啦。
係一個係好私人，即係好personal 嘅片，我承認，因為呢啲完全係即係你問我係咪我嘅自傳，我好多時話係，亦都唔係，因為除咗係其中其他好多嘢咧係我自己嘅，但係亦都可以代表咧係好多我個年齡香港嘅人。尤其是係我哋嗰輩60年代嘅，都係由嗰個木屋區到徙置區，到大學，到而家咁，即係好多人都係經過嗰個過程嘅，就所以咧係好 personal 嘅戲，亦都係好 universal 嘅戲。
set
咩事呢實嚟㗎 ？set ready 點解啊？
唔識啊。
查字典啦嘛。揾到咩啊？
揾到啦。
點解啊？
即係準備嘅意思。
係啊。阿兄啊，你成日睇武俠小説，睇下書得唔得啊？
我自己都感覺得好意外啊！即係父子情咧，初咧我嘅諗法，我盡我自己力去拍一出戲，我唔理佢收唔收得，唔理佢觀眾嘅反應係點樣樣，我將我自己即係嗰啲嘢講咗出嚟。好老實去咁拍一出戲，咁我嗰陣時以為呢出就係我最後嘅戲啦。咁點知出嚟咧就好受歡迎，亦都票房係幾好啦，唔係大好，但係咧公司唔蝕本，咁係對我嚟講係一個意外。
At the time we talked, Fong was shooting his second feature, Ying, named after the young woman who is its central character. The film describes Ying's life. She is the only one of 7 children who agrees to help her parents run their fish stall on the market. But she has a sense that she has some more creative potential, and her friendship with the drama teacher helps her to redefine her life. In this scene, she has invited the teacher home to meet her parents.
出場點大？大咗個肚啊！係啊，肥翻啊！嗱，咁咪問幾個問題咯。你一問培叔一日飲幾多酒？
即係可以就嚟飲幾？
一日飲酒
1斤啦。其他嗰啲咧，有啲人讀書啦，有啲就唔係幾肯幫啦，家姐又翻工啊，睇過。頭先話俾。老生好。
The remarkable thing about the film is that Ying and her family are non-professionals, acting out their real-life stories in their own cramped apartment. The only professional actor involved is Peter Wong, the American Chinese already known for his cameo role as a talkative cook in Wayne Wong's independent feature Chan is Missing, shot in San Francisco.
食餸啊！我係人。飲啊！飲杯啊！
你屋企咁多人開唔開先啊？
我發覺咧，如果根本上唔需要大明星，佢唔係話我唔中意好嘅演技，我中意好嘅演技，但係我發覺我拍我啲戲嘅時候咧，如果有大明星咧，我會受時間限制，受嗰啲期限制， 而且做嚟做去都唔係冇話揾個真人嚟做咁好。如果我揾個真人揾佢做翻即係洗碗，佢一定做得係最好嘅。咁所以咧，我情願花多啲時間喺同佢溝通，同佢認識，然之後揾佢嚟做戲。如果有人願意俾錢我拍啲戲，我會繼續，我完全冇考慮嘅，一路拍到直至到冇人願意投資喺我身上為止。
At first sight, Kirk Wong represents the other extreme in Hong Kong cinema. His first feature, The Club, was a highly commercial genre movie, a thriller about Hong Kong's underworld of triad gangs, centered on a struggle for control of a nightclub and its hostesses. Although he reduced the drama to very basic terms, Wong handled both the subject and the visuals in a strikingly idiosyncratic way, pushing both in the direction of a kind of stylization that is unique in Hong Kong cinema.
Well, I started off doing interior design and some fashion design. Well, I was selling T-shirts, actually. Then I thought I'd do some studying in England. So I went over there. I got enrolled in the art school, did 2 years fashion design. So I thought, well, I think I'd do some theatrical, costume. So I did some stage design, that's for 1 year. So I thought, well, maybe I do some directing. So I got into the film school to do 1 more year of TV and film. So when I finished studying, I wrote a letter to TVB in Hong Kong and see if I can get a job. They said, okay, come back, you've got your job. So I turned up, in Hong Kong. And they said, well, why don't you become a producer? So I said, okay. So I got a job. Well, the producer means, well, actually director as well, producer-director. So I was producing and directing TV series for Hong Kong TV. And when I turned up on the studio that day, when I first got the producing TV, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just tried a few things out, and make a lot of mistakes. And finally, I sort of got what I wanted. I know what I'm doing. Well, I would say 100%. And newcomers, new filmmakers, I don't think people would get a chance like I did. And right now, I'm trying to train 2 of my assistants to be a director. I actually asked them to shoot scenes for me, and I'll be behind there looking if they do the right thing. So if they're good enough, they would become directors, well, one day. Soon, I hope.
The film that Wong was supervising during our visit is provisionally called Boxing Ring. His set was a vaguely futuristic nightclub, and he was shooting a drag cabaret scene. His extras were a crowd of teenage gays and transvestites culled from Hong Kong's discos.
So I started directing after 3 years in television. I did feature films after that. Well, I just sort of jumped into it, and well, it's something about life of Hong Kong. It's supposed to be a comedy to start with, but I changed the script quite a bit. It's now, well, I would say, action, and end up something quite different from the original script, because I was writing and shooting at the same time. This movie I'm shooting tonight, I started off shooting it 2 years ago. Well, actually, 18 months ago. But the actor was too busy. He wanted to sing in Southeast Asia. So he go about singing. So I had to stop. In the meantime, I got a contract to do another film. So I was doing my third feature. But when I'm halfway through my third feature, there's some financial difficulties with the company. I mean, I would say they kind of bankrupt. Well, I don't really mind, actually. It's filmmaking around here, just a way of life, you know. It's more than a job. Well, for me anyway. I just continue shooting or writing or making film. I don't care what film I'm doing, as long as I'm doing some film, somehow.
These are rushes from the original version of Boxing Ring, which was never completed. They probably won't find their way into the finished film. Like almost all Hong Kong movies, Boxing Ring is being shot without sound. At the stage these shots were taken, the film was set in a recognizably real Hong Kong, and it had none of the Baroque decadence that seems to have taken over the new version.
This film, I got two clubs, a boxing club. One is a very straight boxing club. The other one is a very decadent boxing club. And they have girls and drugs and sex and anything goes. So there's this conflict between the two clubs. It's a very typical Hong Kong movie, you know. The picture, I haven't got a script now. It's the film I'm doing tonight. And I'm just improvising this scene. Hopefully it sort of falls together. Because I don't like the script now, you know. I like the script originally, well, just 18 months ago. But now, I mean, things change and I've changed, and I want to look a different way.
I could see you were a man on this so let me get right. I don't have my book for every guy I see. Every splendor.
Anne Hui seems the most purposive of the younger directors, although she is her own sternest critic and often talks about what she considers her own failures and failings. The enormous success of her last film, Boat People, has made her the most sought-after director in Hong Kong.
I studied film in London for 2 years, and then I came back and worked on television for about 4 years before I started the first feature. I shot a series of documentaries on Hong Kong exotica and Southeast Asian exotica, and then some drama series on crime. They serve as raw material for a lot of the feature movies, locations and characters and things which I wanted developed. I mean, that is private. I didn't tell the television station about it.
Hui has made one feature a year for the last 4 years. Not prolific by the standards of the Hong Kong film industry, but she has amassed a more considerable body of work than most of the other young directors have. Her first 3 features, The Secret, The Spooky Bunch, and The Story of Wu Viet, were skillfully varied in subject and style, a psychological thriller, a comic ghost story, and a downbeat action movie about a refugee from Vietnam who becomes a hitman in Manila's Chinatown. All of them were essentially genre movies in unfashionable genres, and all of them started out as projects commissioned by their respective producers. In retrospect, they looked like preparatory work for Hui's 4th feature, Boat People, an extremely ambitious film about the communist takeover of South Vietnam after the American withdrawal in 1975. Boat People was produced by the former actress Xia Meng, a major star in the 50s and 60s, and, most controversially, it was shot on locations in mainland China.
Boat People is also initiated by the producer, Xia Meng. She wanted to do an adventure story about the refugees at sea, but gradually we moved it back to Vietnam somehow or other, because maybe we found that impossible to do at sea. It became a problem of the art director to recreate Vietnam, in China. but it's much easier to shoot in China than in Hong Kong because the authorities gave us a lot of help. You know, they cleared the marketplaces at an instant's notice, and they clear whole streets for us, and which makes it very good for us because otherwise it would be impossible to shoot it, recreate it with the budget we have in that sort of scale.
死啦，跌咗冷添。啲嘢上啊，上面啦，嚟啊嚟啊！ 上面。
I'm so politically ignorant, I would say, or undecided that I don't really think of the subject and ask them to see whether it is possible. I mean, for Xiameng and her company people to sort of censor the plot whenever they think it's politically impossible. I consider myself as a Hong Kong filmmaker, and I want to shoot the experiences of Hong Kong and myself, and not that of China, because or if I have to, Hong Kong people look at China from a very peculiar viewpoint, which is not that one which is completely in line with Chinese people or in line with Chinese politics. We have basic problem about our political beliefs, or I mean that is partly limited by the political situation here in Hong Kong. I mean any film which is directly dealing with the politics in Hong Kong would be automatically banned without anything, without any say from the filmmakers. So if we want to go into a subject at depth, I mean as an independent, we stand in fear of being censored completely. So what I think is probably to go back to the big studios and shoot some movies with large budget and experiment on a sort of Hollywood scale.
Tsui Hark has had the most checkered career of the younger directors thus far. Born in Vietnam, he started making 8mm films and drawing comic strips during his youth in Hong Kong, then went on to study film in the States, where he also got involved with Chinatown community politics. He directed his first feature, The Butterfly Murders, at the age of 27.
My first film started in 1979, and that's called Butterfly Murder. And after that, I make another 4 films. Now I end up here, sitting here.
All of Choi's films have been technically ambitious and visually stylish, but he's the first to admit that he hasn't approached them all with a consistent degree of seriousness.
When I start out to make film, I have, we have been, seeing all these kung fu film and costume drama and things like that. And I was looking for a genre or form which can combine elements of the modern time with the past. I would call it a futuristic costume drama.
The vein of fantasy, myth and magic reappears throughout Choi's work. His last 2 features have been a private eye comedy called All the Wrong Clues and Golden Harvest's sword and sorcery epic Zoo, Warriors from the Magic Mountain. He compares his work on films like these with the old Chinese tradition of oral storytelling.
At the night time, a place called Yongshu Tao. After work, we go there and we enjoy buying things and listen to the old guys telling a story. Film is like that kind of person, sitting under the trees and telling a story. And every story has been put to be narrated or said in a very interesting way to attract people. And you can listen and they will think about it later.
When we visited him, Choi was lending a hand with the direction of an action scene in a comedy called All the Wrong Spies, a sequel to his own private eye comedy. He was also playing a cameo role as a villainous Japanese officer. But there is a more provocative side to some of Choi's work. His third feature, Dangerous Encounter First Kind, was inspired by newspaper reports about teenage delinquency in Hong Kong. He developed the subject into a frighteningly ferocious daydream about urban violence and frustration, on the one hand delivering box office violence in spades, on the other teasing out some of the very real tensions that run below the surface of life in Hong Kong. This was all too much for the Hong Kong censor, who first banned the film in its entirety, then passed it once scenes had been reshot and character motivations changed. The film is now being exported in a dubbed version under the title Don't Play with Fire.
We have to reshoot about 10 days to have another version of the film. And the reason for the banning is because of this thing is too anarchistic to portray a young student who make trouble for the society.
Sticky dick, dumb scoop. Ow! Shit!
We feel that film is a medium where we can use as our voice to speak, as express the feeling of our environment and our society, and very much in the way that sometimes we run against the morality of the Censorship Bureau. The morality of the Censorship Bureau would pretty much defined by a double standard. It's strange, like you sometimes see some of the things can be passed by the Censorship Bureau, like some of the American film, like that. But for Chinese local made film, they probably using different standard. So when you come to ask them about this kind of double standard situation, they will tell you that because the people who go to see this American film have different education background. The people who go to see the Chinese film have different education background. That's why they have a double standard. And I have 4 or 5 projects been rejected by investors, and because I think they think the trend of the market now is not ready for some of the film that try to make, and that's why they reject some of the project.
Hong Kong has no film school as such, but filmmakers like Choi Hak have taught classes at the Film Culture Centre, bringing film studies within the reach of kids who can't afford to study abroad. The centre grew out of the activities of Phoenix Cine Club, Hong Kong's oldest Chinese film society. One of its founders was Xu Kei.
The main purpose of that Phoenix Film Club was mainly to screen some art films or some films which could not be released in Hong Kong. And I think many of us found that that was not enough, and we wanted to set up some kind of a organization which could screen films and maybe set up some film courses and to do something big. And that's how, we all got together and contribute money and then set up the Film Culture Center. a fundraising gala premiere was held, and we got some money, and then we set it all up. But during all these years, we were independent, and we were always running into financial trouble. And we have tried to organize some retrospective program and some directorial study, and organize a series of screenings on a particular theme or on a particular director. And also, we have tried to involve as many filmmakers as possible in our center, in our activities. For example, regularly we held discussions with filmmakers and screened their new productions. We asked them to be tutors of some film courses.
Okay. All right.
The film courses which the Film Culture Center has organized, most of them were quite small courses and independent courses, since we don't have enough money to have enough equipment and things like that. So most of them are actually theoretic courses. And for the people who attend these courses, I think most of them have the ambition to try to start in the film business, or either as assistants or anything. The biggest problem is that most of our committee members are just, we have our own jobs, we have our own professions. Either we work in a television station, or we work as teachers, or we work as in other areas. And we run the center only during our part-time.
Not an Andy Warhol film, but a Hong Kong avant-garde movie inspired by reading about an Andy Warhol film. Alternatives to commercial filmmaking do exist in Hong Kong, although the independent avant-garde cinema is even more marginalized than it is in the West. Since Hong Kong is a city rather than a country, distribution opportunities are limited and audiences are small. Nonetheless, a few filmmakers like Jim Sum are laying the first foundations of a genuinely independent cinema.
I just had a friend who got a camera and I just started shooting. And afterwards I read some books and I saw some short films made here and gave me some idea what experimental film is like there. Now I'm moving into video, partly because of the cost of making film is higher. And more recently again, I've moved into electronic music because so far in my films I use pre-recorded music from records and so on. And I want to expand myself to create my own sound as well.
點會咁嘅
？This is a new film called The Contract, which is my first contracted film work produced by Roger Garcia. And it's basically to fulfill the minimum requirement of the contract. The whole idea is that I will have 4 different stories going on together. One is the line, one is the framing, and there will be a voiceover, and there will be a soundtrack. All 4 lines talks about different aspects of the media.
Lei Chuk To is one of the editors of Hong Kong's only serious film magazine, Film Bi-Weekly. Like little film magazines all over the world, it has a precarious existence. Neither the staff nor contributors get paid. It has a circulation of less than 10,000, mostly in Hong Kong itself, although there are subscribers in most Chinese communities overseas. Back copies have recently been exported in bulk to China. Film Bi-Weekly is not in a position to adopt a strong editorial line, and there are sometimes wide disparities in opinion, attitude, critical method, and even political position from one page to the next. Naturally enough, the magazine has given special attention to Hong Kong's own film industry, and local directors are regularly interviewed and invited to contribute. There's also plentiful coverage of international cinema, and there have even been pioneering attempts to introduce semiotic and psychoanalytic criticism to Chinese readers.
嗱，呢 個咁有 action 啊嘛呢個，點會唔得啫？哇！呢啲幾勁啊！呢啲咁唰一聲咁去，喂，你知唔知呢個幾好？咪呢啲有晒全黑嗰啲嘢啦，點解唔得啫？啊，呢啲幾靚幾好。好喎，你擺呢張相呢張 impress 啲嘛？你擺呢啲冇周街。呢個飛劍嗱，你唔要我真係一定要你要，我淨係你加呢個可以。呢個唰一聲冇咗隻手啊！你睇幾慣啊！
We asked Lake Chok-to and two of the magazine's contributors to discuss some of the problems and contradictions faced by Hong Kong's young directors.
Basically, I think the Hong Kong cinema is a monolithic apparatus. It was heavily industrialized very soon after the war, and this meant that the film language, which has evolved in Hong Kong, is basically geared to a certain type of product. And because I don't believe that the Hong Kong film industry itself knows its audience very well, I think that in order not to remove the appetite of the audience, it doesn't want to change the diet. This means that it's very difficult in terms of the mainstream cinema to actually propose alternatives, because anyone who wants to make a film in Hong Kong today is basically making a commercial narrative fiction feature film. For example, there are no alternative films or women's cinema or parallel cinema. So what's important, in fact, is to see whether or not, let's say, the language of Hong Kong film can actually change. I believe it's been rather static for the past few years. Hong Kong film producers in the industry, by and large, just really don't know what sort of cinema they want to produce. They have no conception of the type of films which they want to produce. It's all, in my opinion, quantified in dollars and in seat capacities and the types of markets they can reach.
It's probably not as pessimistic a picture as what you've just been saying, because precisely because the producers don't know exactly what kind of films that can be best marketed. Directors who have visions, I think, who have ideas, can always subvert the medium, subvert the form, and come up with works that are, in fact, more personal, and they're either fairly stubborn or insistent on certain aesthetical tastes or certain subject matters that they feel very deeply related to. I mean, for instance, Fong in Father and Son can be an example, and perhaps Kurt Wong to an extent in The Club. I mean, these are the people who, in a sense, make a choice, although I think in the final analysis, you know, they might not know precisely where their ideological stand can in fact be situated. Yes. But they're making a kind of film that are fairly personal and represent quite a bit about themselves.
If we are looking for an alternative cinema, like those in the West, in America or in Europe, then I'm sure there you can find any in Hong Kong, and I don't think that is the major weakness of Hong Kong cinema. But the disappointing thing is that most productions now are just after the Hollywood mode of a spectacle, and even lost contact with his own tradition.
Because we haven't in detail analyzed or reevaluated, say, the history of Hong Kong cinema, and many young directors who are making films today know very little about that, it's very difficult for them to see what their traditions are, what the traditions, say, of the Cantonese cinema is. And I think that there's a danger that many of the bad things, which I would say as a kind of militantly morose sort of parochialism of Cantonese cinema, comes out in some of the films of the young directors, and some of the best things too, of course, which is why, let's say, a film like Father and Son is so interesting, because it does deal with some of the better qualities, I think, of what the Cantonese cinema was before in the 50s and maybe the late 40s as well. I don't think that the Hong Kong cinema should be like, let's say, a Western cinema, but I think that there is underneath some of the criticism of Hong Kong cinema, not necessarily my own, I might hasten to add, of a kind of idea of quality, of what aesthetics is. And I think part of the critical debate which we have been taking part in has really been to underline or to try and construct a framework as to what this aesthetic might be.